Welcome back, Hawks fans. Your boy Bryce is back at it again for another Believe in Hawks episode. The Hawks now advance to 2-0 in NBA Cup standings, beating the Wizards 129-117. Obviously, a revenge game for the Hawks as well, and handily the Wizards for the majority of the game after a slow start in the first quarter, really ratcheting it up in the second quarter and never looked back. So obviously, we're going to break down that game. Obviously, we'll talk about the importance for the NBA Cup for the team moving forward, and obviously some of the performances. DeAndre Hunter also returned to the lineup this game, coming off the bench, but giving them great production, which obviously will bring up the conversation of should DeAndre Hunter come off the bench again, and etc. So we're going to break that all down for you on Believe in Hawks. Appreciate you guys for tuning into the podcast. Obviously, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're watching this on YouTube and like the video. And all my audio listeners, definitely go ahead and leave a rating and review on the podcast. And as you can watch this, or you can see all my social media down below. Bricey_2K, BRICY_2K if you want to keep up with me on the socials across the board. So, like I said, guys, appreciate you guys for showing support to the pod. And let's get ready for another episode. So, like I said, Hawks beat the Wizards 129-117 in a game where obviously Hawks fans know we lost the Wizards twice, back-to-back. Not really a back-to-back, but we played them two times in a row. And obviously those games were a little demoralizing for some fans. Obviously, that's when we started to have those string of injuries. We had half the roster out when we played those guys. A lot of people still view the Wizards as such a bad team that shouldn't matter. Now, obviously, the Wizards have some young players that are going to be part of their core in the future. That, they seem to have the potential long term to be a good team if they continue to build it the right way. But as of right now, people believe the Hawks should be able to take care of business with this team. And they didn't do that the first two times, but tonight they did. Obviously, you could say this game meant a little bit more because it was the NBA Cup game. But obviously, good just to see the team playing well, especially after last game where they got a really good upset win on Tuesday against the Boston Celtics, and just maintaining that momentum going into this game. So obviously, you also saw Trae Young return to the lineup tonight as well, because he missed that Boston game with some Achilles soreness. So, like I said, really the story of this game was really the first quarter to second quarter flip. Wizards came out almost a 40-point first quarter, kind of reminiscent of the Detroit Piston game. Hawks defensively just didn't come out with the right energy. And so people are wondering, oh, God, are we in for that kind of a night, right? But the second quarter was a complete flip. Hawks beat the Wizards in the second quarter 30-11. They only allowed the Wizards to 11 points, which is a season low for the Hawks defense for holding a team to a quarter. Could potentially even be an NBA low for the season so far. So that completely flipped the game back in the Hawks' favor, and they kind of led from that point on. Third quarter won that 35-25. Fourth quarter, one thing about the NBA Cup that is going to change things is that because point differential is meaningful in these games, you're going to see teams stick with their starters even in blowouts, because you're going to try to either reduce the point differential or, you want to keep the point differential as wide as possible. So Hawks didn't do a great job with that. They lost the quarter 42-35. They still won by 12, but they had like 20-point lead that they could have had, and that would have been great for them. Obviously, point differential is there to help, because obviously each team that doesn't win the group stage, or a team that doesn't win the group stage, can potentially get into the Cup and road to Las Vegas through a wild card spot, which that will come down to point differential. So obviously you want to kind of have a really good point differential. And obviously if you're winning games, you expect that to be pretty high. So, Hawks, 12-point victory is not good. They have a 13-point differential now because they beat Boston by 1 the other night. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on through these Cup games. They have 2 more left coming up. But, they won the game in a game where, like I said, outside of that first quarter, they pretty much, I would say, outplayed, prepared, the Wizards, and did a pretty good job. So I think you can't be mad at that. Obviously, you can't be, disappointed with that. But like I said, they gave you what you got tonight, and they're only a game below 500 now as well. So they're 1 game away from getting back to 500 because they play the Portland Trail Blazers next on Sunday. And really, this was a game, too, where, like I said, you had DeAndre Hunter return to the lineup, coming off the bench, 21 minutes, 22 points, and 3 rebounds and an assist, 5 of 7 from the free throw line, 3 of 5 from 3, 7 of 13 from the field. I felt like, DeAndre Hunter again brings you another wing defender that you bring off the bench, a guy who, when DeAndre Hunter gives you a scoring punch, it really seems like it really helps this team out, especially on a night where Jalen and Trey didn't go crazy from offense. Obviously, you got another strong game for Dyson Daniels offensively and defensively, which I'll talk about in a minute. But, obviously, he was a big boost to what they were doing. For the entire game, Hawks shot 47% from the field, 32% from three, 83% from the free throw line, only had 16 turnovers, 28 assists, 55 rebounds to the Wizards 52 with 15 offensive boards, 10 blocks, and 10 steals. One thing also I think that was big, even though they had 16 turnovers, they didn't, and it really a lot of those came in the fourth quarter too, but one thing they did really is one thing that the Wizards were able to take advantage of against this team that really killed the Hawks is that they would have these careless turnovers, especially in the third quarter. Third quarters against the Wizards have been really tough for this team. They'll just start turning the ball over recklessly, and then that's how the Wizards get runouts, create easy offense, transition offense for themselves, and that's where it kind of dooms the Hawks at times. They really didn't, like I said, outside of that fourth quarter, have that type of game and they were able to take care of the ball, which obviously, again, when you take care of the ball, you're making the team have to actually score on possessions, not easy transition buckets and putting your defense or stress on your defense. So obviously that was really good to get that and to do that for sure. I think that obviously, you look at it and, I think the Hawks right now are, like I said, starting to get a little bit more healthy. Bogey, Kobe, and Vic were actually called down to the G League, called back up from the G League. I don't know why. I'm assuming that was just to make them eligible to go to the G League if they needed to. I don't know. But they'll be on the road trip the Hawks are going to be taking here because they go to the West Coast for 2 games. Actually, go to the West Coast for 3 games. So they have a West Coast road trip coming up, and they will be on that road trip. So we could see the return of Kobe, Vic, and Bogey to the lineup in the next 3 games. They're supposed to be reevaluated still next week, so I don't think it'll be Sunday against the Blazers. Maybe Monday against Kings. If not, maybe Golden State on Wednesday of next week. So we'll have to see what they end up deciding to do there with the injuries. But it's definitely good that the Hawks are getting more healthy. Like I said, starting with Hunter tonight, it seems like you're about to get your full force of talent back tonight. Not tonight, but you're about to get your full force of talent back. And, you'll be able to go from there. And then we'll be able to really, like I always like to say, you could really see what this team can do once they get healthy, So I think that obviously will allow us to kind of get a true vision of what the team can do and what the team can be, right? So obviously really, really good from that perspective. But obviously going into the player performances, Dyson Daniels again has a tremendous game, 25 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists with 6 steals in the game and 2 blocks all over the court for the Hawks. And I mentioned this last podcast episode about Dyson Daniels. I said Dyson Daniels, what he's getting more comfortable having the ball in his hands, but he's also figuring out his shot profile. And I think you're starting to see that through the confidence of his play. Like, Dyson, like I told you before, mentioned that he wants to take more shots to help Trey. And one of the things I think the Hawks want to do in general is help Trey not have to be the end-all, be-all for them. They're trying to get other guys confident enough and believing in themselves enough to be able to say, hey, I can take this. And I think Dyson's one of those guys who's really, been able to do that. But like I said, another 20-plus point game. Remember, this is a guy coming into his career had 4 points a game. People, when we got the trade, questioned, can he score the ball? Is he someone that we can rely on offensively? And clearly, I mean, it seems like we have seen his growth offensively. So with that, I mean, you basically are in a situation where you feel like the team has really done a really good job of establishing confidence in these players and allowing these players to feel like, hey, we can do this. We have the ability to do this, and we're very confident in what we can do on the court. And Dyson's a part of now that development system that they have established in Atlanta with these players. And he's been showing it 10 of 14 tonight, efficient basketball from him. And he's just been a key cog. I mean, he's trying to go for first team all defense. I mean, he'll probably be in Defensive Player of the Year candidacy. You've already seen some of the Hawks social. Some people already tweeting about it. Dyson Daniels, man, he's taking the league by storm. A lot of videos have been done on Dyson Daniels this past week, ever since the Boston game. I think Dyson is becoming that player that a lot of people are like. It's like the biggest thing about him being able to score right now is, maybe on the defensive game, on these game plans that teams have for the Hawks, they're like, oh, we can kind of just let Dyson, we can let him shoot. We don't really have to worry about him too offensively. Now you're like, all right, well, I mean, you still probably will live with him shooting, but you're kind of like, but he can drive, he can score through different ways. And so we got to be ready to stop his drive, be ready to, defend it, basically. And that's the biggest thing you want, is that everybody on the floor is a threat. And Dyson is establishing himself as said threat. So I think that's really important for this team, that that's happening and that he is establishing himself as a threat offensively on the floor. I think also, too, what happens is that, again, because Dyson has good decision-making skills, and that, again, is product of what they're trying to build around Trey, have good decision makers. So if Trey's not in the game, they could still make things happen. I think that puts pressure on the defense, because it almost feels like you can't lax. Dyson could still find someone cutting. He could still find a nice outlet to the corner, make a play that's there. And so, it basically puts a lot of strain on the defense, knowing there's no one player we can just kind of just relax on. And Dyson being that has been big, because, like I said, some people were concerned what teams kind of help off of Dyson because Trey's the person that they're at the top of the scouting report. The way Dyson is playing, I don't know if you can do that anymore if you're other teams, unless you have a certain type of team. So realistically, really big performance for him tonight. Continues to grow before our eyes, continues. And I mean, I've seen some people mention it. They've said, is Dyson Daniels going to become a star in this league? I mean, listen, the man's only played, 2 years? This is his third year? I think the question we need to be asking is, what is Dyson Daniels' ceiling? Do we know what his ceiling is? If he's able to play well offensively like this, what is his ceiling? His ascension, and I'm not saying he's going to be this player, but it reminds me a little bit of Jimmy Butler. I don't know if y'all remember Jimmy Butler when he first entered the league. Jimmy Butler was a defensive guy. He was not a great offensive player at all. Like, his offense was not that good when Derrick Rose and him were on the same team. Defensively, that's where he made his money. That's where he got playing time. That's where he made things happen, right? Was on the defensive side of the ball. And then he magically, offensively, now was able to, he had a breakout offensive season. And then he was like, oh, snap, Jimmy Butler could score too, and he's a dog defender. I'm not saying that he's going to be Jimmy Butler, but what I'm saying is it kind of reminds me of that, where, okay, defensively, yeah, he's it. But offensively, you don't think so, that he's showing these performances. Like, what if he was able to do this on a consistent basis? I mean, that would pretty much put you in a star tier. Pretty much. I mean, if we're being honest. Like I said, I've already said the Hawks are going to have to pay Dyson. Dyson going to get paid. If he plays like this all year, he's going to get paid, man. And it'll be interesting to see what they get him on a contract for. Because again, I don't really see anybody on this team outside of, especially because they just paid Jalen basically a sort of kind of max contract. I don't see Dyson getting a max contract. So, it'll be interesting to see what that number looks like and what we're going to start hearing, because I think Dyson can be negotiated with this offseason. So right now, I mean, I guess you could say he's even playing for a contract, maybe. Obviously he has another year left on this deal and stuff, so it's not like, because I think he has another year and an option left, like if I'm right. So I don't think that we need to be worried about that. But yeah, Dyson Daniels continues to very much impress with his play on the court, and has been a big boost for this Atlanta Hawks lineup for sure. Jalen Johnson, 18, 13, and 7. Really in a game like this, because the team kind of was able to get contributions from other guys. Jalen, again, as I've mentioned, his value will not always be chalked up to what can he do offensively. it'll be chalked up to what he can do in different facets of the game. He gave you 13 rebounds, continues to be a 10 rebound plus a game guy. Again, underrated his rebounding. 18 points, still giving you some good production there, and 7 assists, doing different things, playmaking, getting other guys the ball tonight as well. 8 to 15 from the field, 1 of 5 from 3. Like I said, continues to grow. I'm glad he's hit a stretch now where he's comfortable within his role and he's comfortable doing what he's doing. He's not in this situation where he's kind of like, I don't know what to do right now. You can kind of see him just kind of letting the game come to him. And I think within the scheme of what they want to do, that's what they want. I think Jalen is a guy who, like I said, he's going to have those big monster games at times, but then he'll just have games like this where he's just effective in other facets of the game. It helps the team all around. I think DeAndre coming back will help him too, just because, in general, I honestly think DeAndre helps Jalen and Jalen helps DeAndre. So I think that also really helps. And then you throw Ricochet into that, and that adds another body to the mix. So I think really for them, in Jalen especially, he just has to continue doing what he's been doing, continue to grow, continue to get better. And, like I said, he will be a Hawk that I think we're going to look at and say, based off the matchup, what do we need from him tonight? Do we need more playmaking? Do we need more scoring? Because he's giving you rebounding every game. So I don't think that's going to be the issue. It's just going to be more about, okay, what do we need from him on a game-to-game basis? And that's something Quinn has to figure out against certain teams. So, but like I said, really good tonight he's had good games against the Wizards this year. He's had some of his best games against the Wizards this year. So this has been a good matchup for him overall. Trae Young tonight. Really wasn't a great game for him efficiency-wise. 5 of 18 from the field, 4 of 9 from 3. Hadn't played in 5 days. He looked like a guy who ain't played in 5 days. He kind of mentioned his Achilles after the game. He said it kind of flared up. And he said it's not something that, is crazy. He just says it's something he has to play through. But at the same time, he was like, sometimes, the medical staff may be like, hey, take a day off. Because he said he felt uncomfortable after the last game with it. So they said they'd just take a game. So I guess there means that there will be times this season that Trae Young will probably miss a game or so, just if the Achilles is feeling uncomfortable. It's one of those, like I say, one of those season injuries where you just it can kind of nag you from time to time. And it really just, like I said, it depends on how you feel. Is it uncomfortable? Is it hurting you? Are you good? Are you not good? Et cetera, et cetera. So, realistically, from that perspective, I'm not too worried about the injury. Obviously, anytime you hear Achilles, you get worried. Like, it's just the Achilles on the verge of blowing out on him. We all hope that doesn't happen. But tonight, I think for this particular game, he still finished with 18 and 9. Obviously, that's less than what we expect from a Trae game. But again, this game, you didn't need Trae to be great. And again, that is a part of what they're trying to build in Atlanta, which is we don't need Trae Young to be Trae Young 30 and 10 to give us a chance to win. If we can win games and he sometimes has an off game, that is perfectly fine. We've seen sides of that. Don't forget, I can't remember exactly. I think it was Chicago's game. They had 60, 70 points in the first half. And Trae only had 8, 9 of those points. They're trying to show we could still operate without Trae Young scoring. And Trae also realizes I can affect the game passing as well. So, I think when you understand that dynamic on the floor, it helps Trae know I can put more trust into my teammates to handle things, and I don't have to be Superman to get this team over the hump. Obviously, in big moments, that could potentially happen, but we'll have to see. But like I said, didn't have the greatest game tonight, but we'll see how he bounces back against Portland on Sunday. Ricochet tonight still kind of has a inefficient game again. 11 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. Nothing crazy really from him tonight. Ricochet just still going through the motions, still growing. And like I said, I'm curious. I think people are going to ask the question now with Hunter back. Do you keep Ricochet in the lineup or do you put Hunter back in the lineup? I think that's obviously a decision that Quinn has to make. Right now, Hunter's coming off the bench because of the fact that he's come back from injury. Quinn's not wanting to just throw him out there and play 30 minutes immediately. We'll have to see. because it could also just be a thing where, hey, this has been our starting lineup for a while. Let's just stick with it, And so I'm curious to see how Quinn's going to handle the 3 spot and who starts there, if that's going to change. Because obviously, I think if Hunter obviously can go back up to 30 minutes or so, maybe they'll put him back in there. But at the same time, I've said that depending on what's happening in that game, if someone's hot for you, if one of them are playing really well, you have the ability to kind of say, well, we're going to go with Hunter one game, or we'll go with Ricochet the other game. So, to close games. So you don't have to necessarily make a change from that perspective. Everybody cares about who's starting that court at 12 minutes at the first quarter, but Quinn says it's more important who's finishing. And, Hunter finished tonight. Hunter did finish the game tonight. So I think that tells you, he still has a lot of confidence in those situations. And Ricochet's been off the floor in those moments. And I think that's part of Quinn just feeling like maybe he's just not at that point in those moments where we need him to be where we need him to be. It doesn't mean he can't do anything in those moments. He just prefers another guy in that moment. And I would think that may be the case moving forward, where Hunter finishes games over Ricochet. Clint Capella with 10, 13 tonight. Actually started off pretty well offensively. Gave you a double-double tonight. Both of the centers tonight, Yucca gave you 13 and 13 as well. So you had 23 points and 26 rebounds between your two starting centers. Not two starting centers, your two centers. And that obviously, again, if you're getting that type of basketball from your two centers, the Hawks are a really hard team to beat when both centers are playing really well. And that's really, like I said, a key cog of what they've always said for years with Okongwu and Clint. You can get 8 minutes of really good center play. And I think that just adds on to that narrative tonight, with both guys really providing. And especially for Okongwu, who's also had a very up and down season. He's had some games where he kind of had some stinkers, and he's had some games where he's played really, really well. And to see him put 2 back-to-back games like this together, I think really was really good for him. And just his confidence overall as he continues to, navigate things. And Quinn is figuring out things. Because if you think about these games, Clint's really only playing around 20 to 24 minutes a game. And I said this last year when we were all complaining about Clint Capella. I said, I think Clint Capella can be effective if you just ask him to play like 15 to 20 minutes a game and just give him bursts of rebounding and some scoring. And that's pretty much how the Hawks have played him this year. They reduced the minutes. He's not playing 30. They've given Onyeka more minutes, so he's basically playing just as much, if not more, than Clint is in most games, even though he's coming off the bench. And I think that's been good for them. Because like I said, I don't think Clint needs to be playing a lot of minutes. He does not need to be that. And then obviously if he has to finish a game because he has a particular matchup or he's played really, really well, you make that decision. So, and obviously as we've all known, the offense just plays better when Onyeka's on the floor than Clint does. But obviously the defense is better when Clint's on the floor than Onyeka is. Obviously because they're two different types of centers. So, so far, your center position has been doing some good things for you. Another thing, too, is like Hawks also went to a 10-man rotation tonight, which I said may happen with Larry Nance playing some 4. So really good to see that. Like I said, Hunter, 22, 3-1. Looked good in his return. Looked really, really good. Big thing for him just staying healthy. Obviously, every year it's the same thing with him. Just stay healthy. If you stay healthy, we're good to go. Because he can, as much as people hate him, he can help this team. He can provide things to this team. People were saying it at times, man, Boston game, even though we won the last one, the first one, it's like, I feel like Hunter could help here. There's definitely some games DeAndre Hunter could help with his skill set and what he can do. And again, we saw DeAndre, when he played, he got back to his shot profile, posting up guys, easy baskets, hitting corner threes. That's DeAndre Hunter's game. And if he can hit those shots, it probably bodes well for the Hawks. Keith Wallace didn't score a point tonight, had 3 rebounds, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. He actually had the highest plus minus of anybody on the floor tonight. So clearly, even though he's not impacting the game from a scoring perspective, he definitely gives you stuff defensively, obviously, and can play make from time to time. Obviously, I guess the assumption would be Kobe, when he gets back, he'll take over that role. And then I'm assuming Keaton goes to the Skyhawks. But obviously he's done a great job for them in this time that he's had to fill in, holding up at that backup point guard spot. Nance, like I said, 13 minutes tonight, didn't score anything either. Just one of those days for him. Garrison Matthews gave you 12 points in 12 minutes off the bench. Garrison Matthews, when the same thing, when Bogey gets back, obviously he'll be relegated back to the third team. But appreciate everything he's really done. The three-point shooting has been a big boost. He's given us some really good games during the stretch without Bogey. And so, big kudos to Garrison Matthews and what he has done for this team so far. But like I said, Hawks are now 2-0 in NBA Cup play. And one other thing, like I mentioned, I really want the Hawks to play more meaningful basketball than like regular season. Because I think when we watched the NBA Cup last year, we saw it's more intense than the regular season game, but it's not the playoffs. So it's like in between. But I still think that would just be a good experience for the team to go through and experience anyway. So they have to go on and defeat Chicago next week, right? They got to beat Chicago in Chicago in that NBA Cup game. And if they win that game, they will have to play Cleveland in the last NBA Cup game, which could be for the group to advance to be able to go to Las Vegas. And it's funny, that week we play Cleveland. We actually played them Wednesday in Cleveland first. Then they come to Atlanta for the actual NBA Cup game. So we'll be playing them on a 2-game stretch when that happens. So the Hawks have some big games coming up. Be interested to see what happens with this team. But like I said, really good win tonight against the Wizards, 129-117. We'll see if this team can get back to 500 against Portland. On Sunday, they're going to Portland. Like I said, the West Coast trip is coming up for this team, so we'll have to see how they do. But, obviously our Hawks on the winning side of things, that's what we like to see. So I think that's all I got for you guys today. Appreciate you guys turning to Believe in Hawks podcast. It's your boy Bryce Lewis. See you next time.